Okay, all right, now we're ready to go. Okay, so tonight we've just got a few things to talk about before we jump right into the presentation. We have a little bit of news and a couple things to share with you. Then we'll go right into our speaker and then some question and answers to follow at the end. So upcoming events, we've got an April speaker series lined up for you. Judy Alter, she's known as the Optimistic BA. She's going to speak to us about 5 characteristics needed to be a great leader. So really looking forward to that next month. Also, some folks responded and said that they were interested in getting together for a social event. So we're looking at in April as well, Wednesday, April 12th, for those that are interested, just getting together at the Old Triangle here in Moncton on Main Street, just to kind of a meet and greet, sit down, get to know some other folks that have the same interests as you do. And I think it'll be a fun evening. So looking forward to see some folks there. And I'm gonna pass it over to Ebenezer for a few minutes to talk about our chapter and some openings that are available there.
Great. So thank you very much, Lorraine, and good evening, everyone. We are excited that you are joining us this evening for our speaker series. And I just wanted to put it out there that we have some few board positions that we're looking to fill. So if you're a member of the IIBA New Brunswick chapter, feel free to shoot me an email as displayed on the slide right here. It's exciting that we're going to be hearing about digital transformation and, of course, how digital transformation is kind of disrupting, different industries. And I think it's really exciting for us. And of course, we will have this discussion, and then Tolu will be taking us through. Would leave it send it back over to Lauren to take it away from here.
Okay. And we'd also like to talk a little bit about membership. So I'm going to pass this over to Patience.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here once again for us to learn an exciting topic. Just a little bit about becoming a member of the International Institute of Business Analysis and belonging to a local chapter, and to let you know of the several benefits which you tend to get when you become a member. You've got networking opportunities. We also offer you professional development where you have access to various resources, such as webinars like this one we have now, seminars and conferences, which we have in our plans to start, all this to help improve your knowledge and skills in business analysis. You also have access to industry standards where you can develop and maintain a standard of practice as a business analyst. Also, there are job opportunities, and also you stand to get discounts. You receive discounts on certification exams, training courses, and other professional development resources. And just like you heard Ebenezer just mentioned, you also have volunteer opportunities, which can actually help your CDUs. Belonging to a local chapter like ours, New Brunswick, will provide you with that opportunity. So we are hoping to hear from most of you as you partner with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Patience. Okay, now for the main event. I'd like to introduce you to Tolu Samuel. He is a Vice President, City Direct Commercial Banking at Citigroup, and a lead instructor and consultant for PMBA education. He teaches business analysis, project and program management. He's trained and mentored multiple professionals and organizations globally. Tolu has a wealth of project management and business consulting experience in multiple business domains such as finance, retail, energy, supply chain, and logistics. He's led and worked with diverse project teams and professionals across multiple geographical locations on complex, large-scale digital initiatives, and ultimately delivered valuable solutions to organizations. Tolu has provided project management and business consulting services to the Government of Canada and several Fortune 500 companies such as Citigroup, Royal Bank of Canada, Bank of Montreal, CIBC, Toronto Dominion, Bank of Nova Scotia, Rogers Communications, and Loblaws, some of the big names out there. Tolu holds an MBA from Manchester Business School at the University of Manchester in the UK, and a master's certificate in business analysis from the Schulich School of Business at York University. He teaches and mentors from a practical perspective. So we're very anxious to hear what you have to share with us tonight. So take it away, Tolu.
Hey guys, hey Lauren, hey everyone. How are you guys doing today? It's wonderful to be here. And thank you all for having me. Well, I see we have a lot of people joining. You guys have one of the largest numbers I'm seeing attending webinars amongst the IIBA chapters, and that's really commendable. So keep up the great work, guys. Awesome stuff. Okay. Okay, so today it's gonna be less formal. It's gonna be more interactive. Usually I run my sessions in a very interactive way. I have two cameras on right now. One's from the computer I'm going to be presenting from, and the other is from my phone. So whichever you want to look at, that's entirely up to you. Now, essentially, what I'm going to be doing today is to share my screen. I will be presenting my PowerPoint slides in a second. I'm just taking a quick look at the chat to see, okay, so I'll already look at both. Okay, wonderful. Okay, great. Let me just go ahead and start sharing my screen. One quick second. Okay, wonderful. I'm sharing my screen right now. Please let me know if you can see it.
Perfect. You just need to put it into slideshow mode. You're good.
Okay, wonderful. We'll go ahead and present a slideshow so it's big enough. Wonderful.
That's perfect.
This is great. Can everyone see my screen?
Perfect. You're good. Perfect.
Wonderful. Great. So let's get into it, guys. So again, like I said, it's going to be a very interactive session with all of us here today. So I'm going to quickly introduce you guys into what disruptive technology is all about. Like, you guys rightly said, I currently look after digital strategies at Citigroup. It's an American bank, and I look after how we, basically look into our digital strategies for commercial banking technology portfolios in the bank. So as part of my day-to-day work, I'm responsible for benchmarking with other organizations, well, mostly financial institutions, to see what's out there, what technologies have been adopted, and how can we make sure that we remain at the forefront of technology as far as banking is concerned, in order to keep our clients satisfied. Now, I'm going to be jumping back into the course of our conversation today, which is basically gearing up for disruptive technologies. Now, what exactly is disruptive technologies? Disruptive technology is a very, very broadly used term, and in most times it's basically used incorrectly. Disruptive technology is basically a technology that it is not necessarily disruptive in itself, but rather it comes into force in the marketplace, displaces an existing incumbent player, and ultimately the disruptor takes over the market, essentially. I'm going to give you some very quick examples, and then we're going to get into very practical illustrations. Now, the first example I'm going to give you is the supercomputers, right? Everyone can relate with that because we all have personal computers. You're logged in from that right now in your respective homes. 1 second, I want to remove the blur. Not really sure why this is blurring out. Just give me a quick second. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, sorry, I just don't like seeing a blur when I'm talking on the phone. There we go. Okay, wonderful, great. Now, I was talking about an example using the supercomputers. Now, back in the days when we had supercomputers, very few selective organizations could afford this. You're talking about, banks and hospitals and universities that maybe had one for the entire organization because it cost millions of dollars. Now, what happened to the supercomputers? Of course, we know we don't have those anymore today. Those have been replaced by personal computers, laptop, tablets, and also even mobile phones, mobile devices have become, computers today. Now, if we take a step back to when supercomputers were being used, supercomputers were the computers that were in force at that time. Now, taking a step back, when personal computers began to come into the picture, when you take a look at the profit margin of supercomputers, the supercomputers manufacturers made supercomputers. That's all they did, right? And their profit margins ranged from 800,000 to like $2, $3, $4, $5 million per supercomputer, because each supercomputer is sold for a very expensive amount. You're talking about the ranges of $5 to $6 million per one. Now, when personal computers started coming to the picture, it made no sense as to, okay, why would I be competing with these guys who are barely making $1,000 in profit margin per device? I'm not really going to go down and compete at that level. I'm just going to go ahead and make better supercomputers. And that's what they kept doing. But what happened? Over time, the personal computers began to get better. They started getting faster. They started getting smaller. They started getting more compact. And they started becoming readily available in respective households. And then ultimately, what happened was that the personal computers began to displace the supercomputers. And if you take a look at it, where the supercomputer owners today, or the supercomputer manufacturers today, they're gone. They do not exist anymore. Now you have the Googles, the Microsoft, and all these other major companies that offer personal computers to the masses. So ultimately, at some point in time, personal computers was a disruptive technology, came into the market, found a niche, began to create and generate market share, ultimately displacing the incumbent players, which was the supercomputers. And ultimately today, we have personal computers being the mainstream computers that we have out there in the market. Okay, so that's a very quick example that I gave to you right now. As we get into more detail towards the progress of the session today, we'll begin to understand more about what disruption really is. I'm going to pause here and take a look at the chat to see what's going on. Okay, wonderful. Now, let's get into disruptive technologies and innovation. Now, disruption is a process, like I said earlier on, when a small company with limited resources leverages technology, right, to successfully take on established incumbent firms. I gave you an example of the supercomputer, and we're going to take a look at some more examples as we go. Now, at one point in time, the internet, as I would say, an innovative technology, dramatically changed the way we did business across the board. Now, for the most part, most businesses, I would say all businesses, one way or the other, have a heavy dependency on internet and technology to conduct a daily business. And that's why we have a job as business analysts today. If we did not use the technologies in our respective businesses, we wouldn't have a job as business analysts, right? So that's one key thing to note. Now, what is the difference between sustaining technology innovations and disruptive technologies? That's a very important thing to look at as well. Sustaining technologies are technologies that an organization will utilize to basically sustain their day-to-day operation. So you have a particular technology niche that you offer to your clients today, and you basically improve on the technology over time to offer better products to your clients. That is what sustaining technology is all about. You basically sustain your existing technologies to continue to offer better products to your client. It's basically called continuous improvement to existing technologies. Disruptive technology, on the other hand, is disruptive in nature. The technologies do not exist, and they all of a sudden show up and begin to displace existing technologies and sometimes existing companies in its entirety. we're going to get into the impact of, sustaining and disruptive technologies later on as we go. Now, what is the essence of sustaining versus disruptive technologies? The essence is that many companies today rely on sustaining technologies because they want to better serve their clients and forget the extreme importance of disruptive technologies and the need to, at the minimum, research disruptive technologies so they're not left behind when these technologies become mainstream. Now, let's take a look at the very quickly different types of disruptions. We have current disruptions, near future disruptions, and distant disruptions. The current disruptions are disruptions happening right now, today, right? You have the Ubers, you have the Airbnbs, you have the Chat GPT, which is just coming in, artificial intelligence. These are current disruptions happening right now. Near future disruptions are disruptions that are going to be on the long term, like the near term future. So you have like the chatbots and you have like the artificial intelligence that are still upcoming and so on. And the distant future technologies or disruptions are, long-term disruptions. You have, things like the metaverse and the ability to create, I would say, artificial spaces within the metaverse. Those are still technologies that are being worked on as we speak, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be, in full force anytime soon. So as an organization, it's always important to understand the current disruptions, what's disrupting your business as far as technology is concerned today. What is the near future disruption that's likely to disrupt in the near future term? And what are the long-term, future disruption that's likely to disrupt your, marketplace or business in the long term so that you can plan your technology adoption accordingly. Now, let's take a look at some very quick examples here, okay? Uber as a company relies heavily on the internet to provide their service. They don't own a single car, right? Airbnb, same thing. They don't own a single asset, right? They don't own a property. They just rely on technology and people connected together to drive their business. And they're one of the highest valued businesses in their respective industries. Now, they do this by relying heavily on technology and disruptive innovation. Now, what businesses did Uber disrupt? Uber disrupted the taxi businesses. We all know that. When Uber came into place, the taxi businesses kept scrambling. And even though they've not been pushed out of business completely yet, they're at the verge at this point in time. Let's take a look at Airbnb. They came into the picture, totally disrupted the entire I would say hotel business or hotel chain businesses, or what some people call hospitality business, and sent hotel managers nuts. Now today, Airbnb holds a very large market share as far as hospitality is concerned. You can say the same about Netflix, right? You can say the same about Tesla as an electric vehicle. Netflix came into the picture. I don't know if you guys remember Dave & Buster's. Do you guys remember Dave & Buster's as a company back in the days? Who's old enough here to remember that? Exactly. Now, if you guys remember Dave & Buster's, you would remember that at some point they had the opportunity to actually acquire Netflix for approximately $5 to $8 million. A very, very substantial, very, very minor amount compared to what Netflix is worth today. Now, what happened? Dave & Buster's did not see the future. They did not anticipate the impact that, the digital technologies or the digital media technology would have on the entire entertainment industry. And look at where they are today. Dave & Buster's are pretty much gone. They no longer exist. They used to be the largest, movie rental or media chain company in the world. And today they're pretty much out of existence. Now, what is the difference between Dave & Buster's and Disney as a company? Disney understood the impact of disruptive technologies. They did their research in it, and they came up with a competitive product in the name of Disney Plus that they never had before. Disney was a company that basically made businesses by producing movies, and they had a lot of assets all over the place, like parks that generated a lot of massive income, but they never had, I would say, a digital media presence. However, they understood the impact of what companies like Amazon Prime and Netflix could mean for their business. And in other words, they came up with a competitive product that could withstand these competitors. Now, can you imagine that Disney did not come up with the Disney Plus solution today, and where they would be right now from a market share standpoint, especially during the COVID period when no one was able to go out to their parks and all that stuff? It'll have been a very big disaster for them as a company, if they wouldn't have potentially been wiped out by now. Now, by these explanations, you can understand the importance of understanding disruptive technologies and adopting them effectively and on time for your respective businesses. Take a look at Tesla, for example. Tesla understood the importance of disruptive electric vehicles and what that would mean in the ESG marketplace. ESG meaning environmental and sustainability governance. Compared to Ford and Toyota and all these other luxury vehicles, Tesla is one of the most relatively new automotive vehicles out there in the industry today. But what's a very significant, important thing to know about Tesla? Tesla is the most valued automotive vehicle out there in the industry today. And why is this? Why is Tesla the most valuable company, even though it's one of the newest of all these companies? Tesla understood and still understands the importance of disruptive technologies. Now I'm going to pause here and take a look at the chat to see if there are any questions so I can get them answered. Yes, sorry, Blockbusters. Thank you for correcting me, not Dave and Buster's. Yes, Blockbusters. My apologies. Yes, Terry, thank you for that. Wonderful. Okay, so let's keep going. Now, what are examples of companies that reacted slow? Now, we just took a look at some companies that actually disrupted the marketplace, okay? Now, let's take a look at other companies that, have failed due to disruptive innovations. I'm sure you guys, I can see some people smiling here. I see Lorraine smiling because she recognizes some of the names we have on here on the screen. You can see Blockbusters, you can see MySpace, BlackBerry, and Nokia. Now, these names were once very big, massive, brands with very heavy market cap values at the prime of their or at the height of their technology innovations. But what happened to these companies exactly, and why did they fail? Blockbuster is a company. We just talked about that right now. MySpace. Companies like Facebook came into the picture and totally displaced them. Why is that? Facebook understood the importance of emerging technologies and listening to customers, but MySpace did not. Facebook grew over time and basically evolved their applications to suit growing customer needs. MySpace did not, and got kicked out of business. Facebook also understood the importance of strong acquisition strategies. Can you imagine what Facebook would be like today if they never acquired companies like Instagram or WhatsApp or any of these other artificial intelligence companies that they initially acquired as a company? Facebook were much smaller and potentially not as impactful as they are today. Take a look at BlackBerry, for example. When Apple came out as a phone, BlackBerry did not evolve to suit customer needs and to adopt emerging technologies like companies like Apple adopted, and they paid the price daily for it. We can say the same about Nokia. I was reading an article about Nokia and how very early on, when smartphones was becoming a thing, it was not yet as widely used or adopted as we have it today. But right at the early days of smart devices, Nokia executives were shown a roadmap as to how smartphones will be indeed the future of mobile devices, and they totally displaced that idea because Nokia devices were just working just fine the way they were at that point in time, and their customers were basically happy with the product. Now, of course, today I don't need to tell you the impact of what that has had on the company altogether. Nokia is no longer a force to reckon with as far as smartphones are concerned. A company which was once number one mobile device selling company has ultimately become very irrelevant today. That's correct, and Kodak as well. Thanks for chiming that in. Okay, I'm going to stop here and take a look at the chat to see if there are any questions. Okay, wonderful. Great. Now, let's talk about, apologies, I might cough from time to time. I'm just fighting a little bit of a cold here. Now, let's talk about incumbent players and why they're suddenly caught asleep. Why is it that these once powerful organizations were caught asleep by new players that eventually kicked them out of the marketplace? Now, a theory called the innovator's dilemma, which was suggested by Harvard Business School's professor Clayton Christensen, basically shares an idea as to something called the innovator's dilemma. Now, what is the innovator's dilemma? The innovator's dilemma, and if you remember from our previous slide, we talked about sustaining technologies and we talked about disruptive technologies. This is where that comes into play. Now, most incumbent players, and by incumbent players, I mean organizations that own a lot of market share in our current dominant players in their respective industries, they rely on sustaining technologies because their goal is to strive to continue to improve their products in order to increase their customer base. They barely invest in disruptive technologies, or at least in the research of disruptive technologies, in order to meet the future technology needs. They focus on the present. Now, because they're focusing on the present, they invest heavily in sustaining technologies in order to improve their existing products. Now, on the other hand, disruptive technologies, which are not proven technologies, because these are net new technologies, they're not proven at all. What happens here is that they do not invest in those technologies. They dismiss those technologies because it's not been proven. And as a result, they miss out on these technologies at the point in time when they become mainstream. Because ultimately, the disruptive technologies come in and displace the incumbent players. And that's why you have many of these businesses going out of market. Now, what can organizations do better in order to be more prepared to adopt disruptive technologies? Now, instead of focusing heavily on just sustaining technologies to improve existing technologies, why not do both? Why not continue to meet your existing customer needs by, of course, investing in your sustaining technologies, but at the same time, invest in research of disruptive technologies in your business area so that you're not caught off guard at a time when it becomes a mainstream technology. Now, it is important to find opportunities in the market as well, where the demands of the customers are not being met, which is what businesses like Uber, Airbnb, did it very successfully. It is also important for organizations and firms to, like I just mentioned earlier, focus on incremental innovation and at the same time, continue to invest in disruptive research, technology research. It's also important to provide, technologies that can be offered to customers at a lower cost, because at the end of the day, costs in the law of supply and demand, cost basically plays a very big factor into how many customers you would have on the long term. And also, it's important to leverage technology to the fullest. Companies like Airbnb and Uber, like I said, have leveraged technology to their advantage. Now, how can you anticipate and gear up for disruptive innovation as a company or as an organization? It's very important to be agile. And as you know, most companies are now adopting agile practices in technology. Now, I just realized that I'm actually speaking through this device, so it's better I'm also looking here at you guys. So it's very important to focus on, delivering agile technologies and move away from more traditional waterfall. So because in this day and age, disruptive technologies are evolving so fast that if as a company you're still lagging behind adopting the waterfall technologies, it might be very hard for you to apply these technologies and adopt them very quickly and rapidly in the organization. So when you adapt more agile and flexible methods for technology innovation, you're in a better place, or you're better positioned to easily adopt these disruptive technologies. You should also be ready to adapt quickly to change. And by this, this also rings true for companies that adapt the agile methodologies, because when you adapt more agile methodologies for your technology innovation, you're in a better position again to adapt swiftly to changing priorities in technology. It's also important to invest, like I said earlier on, in both sustaining and disruptive innovative research, so that you can continue to support your customers and meet your customer needs while you prepare for the long-term disruptions. Now, it's also very important to perform periodic exercises of identifying disruptive new entrants. So as a business, you want to understand who are the new players that are coming to the picture and how do they potentially disrupt my business. Facebook is a very good example of a company that does that really well. And that has worked for them strategically over time. Now, I'm going to pause here and go into the chat and see if there are any comments or questions so far. Okay, I see some questions, and I'm going to go to the questions once I finish the slide presentation. I see some very interesting questions and comments in the chat so far. Okay, wonderful. I'll address this once we complete the slides in the next 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, wonderful. Now, from a BA standpoint, where do we come in here as business analysts? You want to be the disruptive business analyst. You always want to question the status quo in your respective organizations. You always want to benchmark against other competitors in your organization to see, that compete with your organization to see what they're doing and how they are solving for problems in order to see how your organization can best leverage newer technologies to their advantage. Now, also, it's important to think like a leader. And like I said earlier, do some research, over time in your spare time to understand, new technologies that impact your business area. It's also important for you to understand, doing your strategy analysis, what are the gaps in the organization between where they are today and what the future state looks like in your company. Do you work in an automotive company? Do you work in the bank? Do you work with governments? Where is your company, organizations, or government? Where are they today, right now? Where do they stand as far as adopting digital technologies is concerned? And what is the gap between where they are today and where they need to be going forward in the future? And how do you leverage disruptive technologies to bridge those gaps? And also, finally, championing, a fail quick approach. This very much ties into adopting agile delivery methodologies so that you can adapt to change much quicker and get your products to market much quickly. When you get your products to market on time, you can learn from client feedback, adopt, client feedback into your product delivery process and come up with rapid, better products over time. We have seen many successful companies that have adopted such techniques like Apple, Microsoft. They put their product out there regardless, allow the customers to use the product, get feedback from the customers, and over time they deploy enhancements and updates in the form of new versions of their technology, like iOS version 1, 2, 3, 10.4, 10.5. You can see, even on your Microsoft product, your personal computers, every 2, 3, 4 days, you're getting, notification to restart your computer because an update has been installed, and so on and so forth, right? So again, championing a fail quick approach. Let's put our product out there, and over time, we will basically get feedback from clients to adopt the feedback and provide better product to our customers as we go. It's also a very good approach to take to adopt disruptive technologies. So I'm basically going to park here very quickly, take a look at the chat. Okay, no additional questions. Great. Okay. And then finally, there is a quote that I want to quote from, Eric J. McNulty from Harvard Program Business School. He's a Harvard Business School program director. And here's the quote: "There's a problem with the assumption that relative stability is the norm and disruptions are episodic. Such predictability is increasingly an illusion." So essentially, we thinking that things are here to stay the way they are is delusional, essentially, because given the rapid change in technology that we've seen over the past 10 years, right? Our generation has witnessed the most rapid change in human history as far as technology enhancement is concerned. The changes in technology over the past 20 years has superseded any technological revolution in the entire human history combined together, right? So obviously this trajectory is here to stay. We can see rapid innovations taking place over time and very quickly. And as organizations, as business analysts in our organizations, it is our responsibility to understand in our respective domains, what are these technologies? How can they be adopted in our respective organizations in order to stay abreast and stay relevant in the marketplace? I'm going to park here for now, and that's the end of my slide. And I'm going to go into the chat, take a look at questions. And if you have any questions, you can definitely ask your questions. You can unmute yourself to ask your questions, or you can ask your questions through the chat. I would ask that someone helps facilitate questions and answers from the panel. So very quickly, I'm going to take a look at some of the questions that have been posted in the chat, and I'm going to answer them, or we're going to have a conversation together. The first question is from Bola Adesokwe. Where do we strike that balance between when organizations decide to refocus or re-strategize, and when it appears they refuse to respond to disruptions? Wonderful. So how do we strike the balance between when organizations decide to refocus and when it appears they refuse to respond to disruptions? If I'm getting your questions properly, your question right, Bola, I would say that as an organization, the first step is to understand where you stand today, right? As far as the application of technology is concerned. Are you in the forefront, or are you lagging behind significantly? Or are you somewhere in the middle, right? Once you understand that, and then you can also understand what's your strategy? What's your competitive strategy? Are you a very strong player in the market, or are you more like a very niche targeted player? And how much do you have from an organizational standpoint to invest in technologies? Because to be honest with ourselves, not every organization can invest in disruptive technologies. It's just sometimes it's too expensive. So there are a bunch of factors to consider when considering your investment strategy. But at the very minimum, there is always a solution for every organization, regardless of your budget in today's technology world. Of course, the less expensive a technology is, you should be willing to trade off some functionalities and capabilities that those technologies have to offer. But essentially, I would say that the most important thing is to understand where you are today and make a decision from there how you want to respond to the disruptive marketplace based on your organizational strategy and your budget. Okay, I'm going to move to the next question. And this is from IIBA New Brunswick. Who is IIBA New Brunswick?
Myself, Ebenezer.
Oh, Ebenezer, that's you. Okay, great. Okay, thanks, Ebenezer, for this question. Let me just read it out loud. How can you get your industry leaders to think innovation and disruption when there is no competition as seen with many technology companies in Canada? When you say when there's no competition, can you please explain, Ebenezer, what you mean by that?
So there has to be a reason for that, thinking about that innovation, right? And of course, I mean, one of the things that I've seen with a lot of companies around here is, so for instance, talk about internet service providers. How many do we have, right? And then of course, talk about almost anything. There's not a lot of competition, right? So what will drive that innovation in a new small company to actually want to disrupt that industry? I just not seen a lot of it around here, you know what I mean? So I'm just saying, maybe we can have a little conversation around that, you know what I mean?
Okay, so if I'm getting your question properly, what would potentially drive, sorry, I'm just trying to get the right spot here with my camera. So what would potentially drive an organization to adopt innovation? Is that the question? I just want to make sure I understand the question properly.
To disrupt a particular industry.
Okay, get it. So it's basically by understanding, in my mind, it's by understanding the gaps that exists in your industry, right? So for example, we can take a look at Uber. They understood the gaps. There was a lot of heavy dependency on a very small central taxi group, like companies, where you could basically book a taxi and the next second, your taxi could get canceled, or you could stop a taxi and they charge you an insane amount because they feel you don't have any option. So it was highly monopolized, right? And they discovered that there was an opportunity to change that, and they came in with the correct technology to change that. So in order to disrupt, the correct technology to cause the disruption must be in place, right? Take a look at Airbnb as well. The exact same thing happened, right? So it is very important to understand, if you want to be a disruptor, what is your niche? How are you looking to impact that particular business domain, right? And once you understand that, you can leverage technology to cause that disruption, essentially.
Awesome. Thanks.
Can I add something here?
Absolutely, Lauren, go ahead.
So a lot of the examples that you've provided are very large organizations that everybody's very familiar with. But I think this can also be scaled down to very, very small scale industries. You could be a pet groomer and come up with a great idea to take that on the road and go to people's homes and groom their pets, or whatever it is. It can be something very tiny, and it doesn't always have to be a technological disruptor. But I think anybody that's in business just needs to be aware of the landscape within their industry, and make sure that they are aware and ready to change as the public wants them to change.
No, absolutely. So disruption comes in multiple ways, For the most part, disruptions come with technologies, but you're absolutely right in the sense that, it doesn't always have to be technology driven, right? It's very important for organizations to stay abreast of the competitive landscape so that you can change and adopt changes as you go in order to stay competitive 100%. Okay, so let's keep looking. We have another question from
myself.
let me see, from you again. Okay, a lot of this technology can be expensive. Sorry, what did you say?
I think you already answered a part of it in the sense that technology can be expensive, right? So
yes, that's correct. That's correct.
So, and then I realized that a lot of companies are exactly not designed for digital. A case in point, if you're a consulting firm and then you're consulting for a client who has a particular problem, and then of course they've been able to see what the gap analysis kind of looks like based off where they are right now, and then of course what their desired future state should be like, right? And then you're recommending to them that, okay, it would be nice to kind of adopt this kind of technology and things like that, so that it's going to give you all of these results. What happens when they are originally not designed for digital? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely, you're right. Now, very good question. Now, so you tell me, companies that are not designed for digital, after COVID, where are they right now? Where are they today? They're either gone or significantly struggling right now as we stand, right? So we are at that point in time where you either have to adopt technologies or fail. Essentially, you don't have a choice at this point in time, right? So in adopting digital technology or digitizing your business, whatever that business is, to Lorraine's point earlier on, you could be you could be grooming pets as a business, right? You need to have a website. People can book appointments with you to say, okay, instead of giving you a call and taking notes on a notepad or on a calendar you have on your table, you can adopt technologies where people can basically go on your site, book your service. Okay, I want you, this timeline is open. I'm going to book in you for an hour to come groom my pets. And then at least when they log into your website, they can see what days you're not available, what days you're available. They can see the kind of services you offer. They can see how long it takes for each type of service, and they know, what to do. So essentially, we're at the point in time right now where, regardless of how small your business is, you still have to adopt digital technologies one way or the other. Now, the good thing is that most of as we go forward, or I would say as we progress, in generally as businesses or as companies or as organizations, these technologies become readily available and they become readily affordable. So it's not just like the supercomputers versus personal computers, right? Before, to own a website and run a website or manage a website was extremely expensive, years ago, but right now it's relatively affordable. So over time, these technologies will only get more affordable, and it will be easier for, small scale organizations or companies to adopt these technologies.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's see here. I think I'm going to pause here and see. I'm going to pause on the chat and see if there's anyone that wants to ask a question. You can just, unmute yourself and ask the question.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Lorraine.
Okay.
Go ahead, Patience.
Yeah, please, I just want you to show us again the slide that has to do with the role of the BA.
Okay, I can see a lot more questions have come through. Okay, the role of the BA. 1 second. Here it is. Did you have a question about this slide?
No, I just wanted to look at it again.
Oh, okay. You can actually get the slides shared with you if you want it. I've shared the slides with Ebenezer, so he can make it available to you guys if you want to have it.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, if we can have that. Yeah. What caught my attention here was the last point here that says championing the fail quick approach and agile or rapid delivery framework in the organizations to get products to market quickly. Yeah, I'm seeing that taking place in the financial industry. Yeah.
Very correct. Very correct. Because you can't afford to wait to have the perfect product, right? You have to be willing to adopt the change as they come and put your product out there. As change emerges, you very quickly adopt the rapid, technology delivery approach. They call it, rapid delivery. That's what it's called from a technology standpoint,
Yeah,
right?
what,
Yeah.
Now
Correct.
taking the product to the market. Yeah,
That's
what
correct.
the financial industry is doing now. All right.
Yes. So your products are out there. It's, whatever changes you've introduced is out there. And if there's a need to enhance or, review or whatever the case may be to your existing products, you can then do that as time goes by, continuously delivering value to your customers.
Interesting.
Okay. No worries. Any other questions before I get back into the chat?
I don't think
Anyone else has any questions?
right now, though. We can go back to the chat. No one is
Okay.
asking questions right now.
Okay, wonderful. So let's get back to the chat really quickly. So I'm just trying to scroll to see where I left off here.
Maybe I can help you. I think the next one is a comment. I can actually just help you with that.
Okay, absolutely.
I need to mention, I think, Terrence, that, we need to mention that more recent tech growth has come with unhealthy mental, social, and, physical effects, pretty much. Yeah, so I think that's more like a comment. And I think the other part was around security, a lot of technology here and there, of course. I think security or cybersecurity is kind of some sort of something that needs to be taken into consideration. Yeah, and I can probably just quickly say that. Yeah, many companies today are beginning to adopt cloud technologies, and of course, security, of course, is very important in the cloud as well.
Yes, no, absolutely. I would say, going back to the mental or unhealthy situations going on, especially like social media. So with great technologies comes pros and cons. So again, technology has its pros and cons, like the ChatGPT, it has its pros and cons. It helps you find information quickly. It could also help students cheat in class. Social media, it helps you stay connected to friends, family. It helps people, a lot of people that were not even known before have become celebrities through social media. A lot of people have began to create income streams through social media, but at the same time, it's also created a lot of unhealthy, I would say, environment for teenagers and young adults, and has led to suicide in some cases, and so on and so forth. Right, even in the workplace, right, the force or the drive to deliver, top of the notch technology over time has led to a lot of mental strain on employees, because you have to deliver, you have to be there, you have to be present to make sure that you're driving change in your organization, and that is just the case. Unfortunately, it's just what it is. We can't change that. What we can do is to maybe put some policies in place to try to reduce the negative impact that these things have. But with everything out there, regardless of technologies, there is a pro and con to every side of things, right? Another quick point I'm going to note here is that as far as unhealthy mental stress is concerned in the workplace, this is just what it is. For example, you cannot strive to be an executive and expect to have an easy job. It is what it is, right? It is extremely difficult to be in certain positions in the workplace. The business analyst is apparently one of those very difficult positions that it's hard to be in, incredibly hard to stay abreast of technologies and to understand very complex solutions. Like you guys know, sometimes you work on extremely complex projects that just drives you crazy, right? That is just what it is. There's no two way about it, unfortunately. Okay, so I'm going to park here and see if there's any other comments you want to bring up, Ebenezer, from the chat.
Yeah, okay, so the next one says that in view of disruption taking place, a critical success factor is people. How can a business analyst successfully be a change agent in delivering business solutions? Because of course, people are, usually resistant to change. That's
No, absolutely.
one question. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say that just like you would drive change regardless of disruptive innovations or not, just you have to learn, you have to understand what your organization's change threshold looks like. Just like, you know, every organization has a risk tolerance threshold. You need to understand what your organization's change threshold looks like and be that agent that strives to make a change. Now, as a BA, we know that we don't have all the authority to make the change. We know that the certain things can change in organizations, but there is only so much that we can do to influence people, but still, we can still influence in our own little way, right? So whenever you realize that there are new technologies or there are certain innovations that would benefit your organization, be bold, be brave. Don't be shy about it. Reach out to the necessary stakeholders or necessary individuals that are in the position to help you drive the change. If your suggestions make sense, chances are very high that they would be adopted, would be my suggestion.
Absolutely. And I think the final questions, just before we kind of run out of time, Abimbola says, what if companies that are not at the forefront of competitiveness are still cashing out? They're still making profits, so they feel no need to invest in technologies at the moment. What would be your advice to them?
I think that's very simple, right? I think that my straightforward advice would be that they should adopt digital technologies or be ready to go out of business very soon. Now, most of these businesses that apologies, most of these businesses that are still surviving, that are non-digital, are surviving just because they still have a client base that still requires that non-digital approach, like the old workforce, 60, 70-year-old, 80-year-old people. Now, they might manage to survive for another 10 years, but once those, sets of customers are out of the picture, everyone's going to die someday. That's the basic law of life and nature. Now, once those people are out of the way, what happens, right? You're looking to serve people that are used to doing things quickly, getting services quickly, leveraging digital technologies to interact with businesses, and you're still far behind. You basically will be out of business in no time. So my very strong encouragement would be that they understand the implications of continuing on the path that they're on, and if they're willing to swallow the bullet in terms of what those implications imply, then they should go ahead and continue as they are. But if they wish to survive as a business and thrive, they definitely want to be looking into what technologies make sense for them.
Absolutely. Awesome. I think that's all the questions there. Thank you for your comments, Terence and Ifeanyi. That's actually very good as well. So I think that's all the questions we can take. Thank you so very much, Tolulope. This was really fantastic. It was eye-opening, and I think it was really very informative as well. I think I'll just say very big thank you on behalf of the board and members and all of the guests kind of joining from all over the world. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'll turn it over to Lorraine to take it away from here. Lorraine, you're muted.
Sorry, Ebenezer, I didn't catch that, but I think I heard my name.
Yeah, I'm turning it back to you. We're done with the questions. Yeah.
Okay. Well, just a big thank you, Tolulope, for sharing your knowledge with us. Certainly lots to think about tonight. So thank you, and thank you everyone for joining. And come back next.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you for having me, guys. It was a pleasure to be here with you guys. Thanks again.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Bye, guys.